Karen, you're now an English translator at the World Bank in Jamaica. Tell us a little bit about the whole journey to that. How did you get into translating? And I believe you do both French and Spanish.
Yes, I do translation and interpreting, which are two different disciplines.
Right.
But I started out my professional life as a teacher right here at St. Andrew, because throughout my entire life my goal was to become a teacher, and I said it was going to be either Spanish or music or both. So I ended up teaching Spanish for 4 years here, and I did 1 year I think of music when somebody was on leave. But it was during that period that the university they started to offer this diploma in translation, and my lecturers encouraged me to be part of the pilot group. So I went and I did it, and then I got bitten by the translation board. So fortunately, shortly after graduating from that course, Language Training Center came calling, and I went there in December of 1989 and never looked back. So I've been in translation full-time 24 years. And I spent 16 of those years at Language Training Center as the head of the translation department, and then I've been at the World Bank now for the past 8 years. The introduction to interpreting now came while I was at Language Training Center, because they handle a lot of conference interpreting services and this sort of thing, and so I got introduced to that, and then went and did the diploma in it at university, because they also began to offer that program. Unfortunately, since then they've stopped. For whatever reason, lack of funds or equipment or whatever, that program has stopped. And they're going to revive the Masters in Translation at university as well soon, so I have been involved in that process. Translation, though, is something which requires a lot of discipline. It requires a lot of research and a willingness to learn about everything, because you don't never know what's going to come at you. Some days it might be very basic things like birth certificates and invoices and this sort of thing. But some days it's going to be machine manuals, some days it's going to be divorce papers, some days you're going to be looking at some water project or road project or whatever it is. So you have to be prepared for all eventualities. And there are some people who have the misconception that because I'm at the World Bank I do a lot of financial and economic translation. Not so. That probably constitutes about 5% of my work. We do a lot of work on procurement though, because the bank is very big on transparency and good governance and correct procedures and so on. So we do a lot of things on procurement. And if the bank is involved in a project and people living in the area around the project have a dispute, for example, on environmental grounds, then we have to translate all the legal documents or the environmental documents related to that incident. And some of these are quite lengthy. The bank as well teaches you to be very meticulous, because an institution which places a great deal of emphasis on perfection. Everything at the bank. It doesn't matter what your field is, if you're an economist, if you're a transaction processor, if you're an accountant, whatever it is, everything has to be done as close to perfect as possible. And so although I came in with a strong skill set and a lot of experience, I still had to go several levels up, in terms of my revision capacity, my attention to proofreading and detail and so on and so on. Quite meticulous having been here at the bank. And just taught me new things. The only problem I have with the bank and translation is that they use American English. And that has taken me a while to get used to, where they will drop out certain prepositions, where they use certain types of spelling and so on, that we don't do here.
Right.
But yeah, what
adapt to that, yes. What do you prefer, translation or interpreting?
I prefer translation. But interpreting gives you a bit of an adrenaline rush, because it's so high stress. When you go into a booth and somebody is going at great speed, and you have to keep up with them and maintain the naturalness. It's very, very difficult. Some entities run interpreting among the top 10 most stressful professions in the world, because of the level of concentration required. And I know that I've been to conferences and after 5–10 minutes, I think I've done 2 or 3 hours work, because the concentration has to be so high. You can't deal with any distractions. You have to focus solely on the speaker, and you have things like accents that will impact how you receive it.
Right.
There are some of my colleagues, for example, who don't like to interpret when people from the Eastern Caribbean are speaking. some of my colleagues who go into French or
Why
into
is
Spanish
that?
because of the accent. It's harder for them to follow.
Okay.
Some of us don't like to interpret for Cubans because they drop off the S's or they drop off the D's and this sort of
Of the
thing.
Spanish, yeah.
And then you have people who don't like to interpret for persons from the south of South America, the southern pole as we call it. Because again, certain grammatical structures they use, if you don't use so much up here, and the accent again. So
And they use colloquialisms, I imagine they use colloquialisms and so on, or not?
Not much in a conference setting, you know.
Oh, okay.
No, you don't have much other than a conference setting. What you do, and then you have those who are not native speakers to begin with. So you have the Japanese person speaking English at your meeting. You will have the Brazilian claiming to speak Spanish who goes off into Portuguese and then messes up it, but you don't work from Portuguese, right? So you have all of these things to deal with in interpreting, and it makes it very, very stressful and very challenging. We often ask people to bring us the documents, background information, you know,
Yeah.
and 1 month before the meeting.
Yeah.
Rarely happens.
Okay.
Rarely happens.
So the process now to becoming an interpreter and a translator, tell us how it worked for you. You went to certain universities and I see you won quite a few scholarships and stuff along the way. Tell us about that, because I'm sure there's some young people watching and listening who would be interested to know how to do it.
Well, I did the diploma in translation first and then went to work at Language Training Center as a translator and then did the diploma in interpreting and continued to work as a freelance interpreter from time to time at various meetings. Some of them are small meetings, little roundtable negotiations at Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Some of them are bigger meetings, international conferences and so on. And then sometimes you just go to an escort interpreting assignment. So somebody's here on business and you have to accompany them to their various meetings. Sometimes it's state visits, you know, some diplomat or world leader or whatever comes here and you have to go along with them to various events. So it takes different formats, and you know, some are obviously more pleasant than others. Well, the hardest conference I ever done was one on metrology, which is the science of measurement. Yes, and that's extremely technical, lots of numbers, lots of scientific terms, and so on and so forth. But we have courses here in Jamaica, Northern University, and Language Training Center also offers diploma programs in translation and interpreting. Failing that, you can always go to the States. Monterey, for example, in California is a good school for that. Switzerland has several good translation and interpreting schools, and then there are a few others in France and Spain and so on.
You went to...
Valladolid.
Right, that was in Spain?
Yes. I got a scholarship from the Spanish government.
Right.
And so I went to do my master's there from 2000 to 2002.
How do you know about these scholarships? Do you just see it advertised?
The Spanish government advertises them each year, but then you have to go and do your research about which school applies to the program you want to pursue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did it in a master's in translation?
Yes.
Right. And then you also went on and did other courses, interpreting?
Interpreting, not since I finished the master's. Not having done any more studies in the field.
So, some advice to youngsters now on
well, obviously,
I mean, you've achieved so much. You've done so many wonderful things. Just listening to you, yes. I'm sure there are young people out there who are saying, "Oh gosh, I wish I want to do that."
I'm a strong believer in following your passion. So I consider myself very fortunate to have worked in two fields that I love so much for my entire life.
Yes.
Teaching, translation, interpreting, and music, and I have worked and continue to work in all of them.
Right.
And you have to be prepared to do the work.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just snap your fingers and you have the skill of a son. You have to be prepared to do the work. Yeah. Lots of times when your friends are out partying, you're going to have to stay home and do some research and do some fine tuning. I came here in fact the other day. And when I was talking to the girls, I told them that for each job I submit, it goes through at least 3 versions before it is finalized and sent in. And they were like, oh, no. But that's the reality. When you get the document, you do your first draft, your second draft, then you revise, you proofread, and then you send it in. You don't just have to say box out something and submit it now. Right. It doesn't work like that.
And of course, finally, before we finish about your career, tell us about the music and your work with the Portmore Chorale.
Yes.
But that's your baby. Tell us about that.
Baby. The chorale is 28 years old, the Portmore Chorale.
Okay, we're going to wind up just now, and then we'll come back and talk about chorale.